This video we're going to show you how to change the battery in an RX3000 station, specifically the 3G station, which is a little more complicated than the Wi-Fi or the Ethernet device. The first thing we need to do is unpack our battery, our replacement battery. This is the way it's shipped. So you have the label here and it's shipped in this box. So we're going to open up the tape using our trusty Leatherman tool. And we'll have a look to see how this is packaged. And we have some packing material here. Here's our battery. There's tape over the terminals. And here is the manual that explains how the procedure in replacing the battery. Put that aside for a moment. You can see here the battery has the terminals taped over so they don't short out in shipment, even though there's nothing metal in here. But you do have to remove the tape. So there's our battery. Red is positive, black is negative. Now we'll disassemble our RX3000 and we'll get this battery put in. So here's our RX3000 station. It's a cellular or a 3G device. We can tell by the antenna here on the top of the box. The procedure says we want to test the battery. If you wish, at the beginning, the batteries are shipped fully charged. So there shouldn't be a concern of it being discharged at the time, but if you have a voltmeter handy, you can certainly check it. The tools I'm going to be using are pretty basic. I'm going to be using a small Phillips screwdriver, also a larger one to get the battery out. This is my trusty Leatherman tool that has a Phillips screwdriver built into it. The first thing I want to do is take out any optional modules. This particular device has a 4-channel analog module installed. You want to disconnect the battery if it's not already disconnected. So the battery goes, this is the battery terminal here, and I've already disconnected that. Also, you want to disconnect any charging device that might be connected. This is the charging port. It's much easier to do this, to follow this procedure off a tripod. So you don't want to try to do this on the tripod or while it's mounted in the field. It's extremely difficult. You can do it, but you have to be very careful because this is the antenna lead here. You have to be careful you don't break this when you're replacing this device. So you have to pick this board out, this electronics module, and kind of hold it out of the way so you can get that battery replaced. So it's very difficult to do on a tripod. You can do it. I've heard of people doing it. They'll take a piece of duct tape and tape the board to the side of this housing so that it doesn't fall down. Anyway, you want to take out the module. You want to disconnect all your smart sensors. Obviously, we've done that because we've taken it out of the field. We've taken it off the tripod. So here's our analog module. Put that aside. And there's 4 screws in here that we want to remove. They're Phillips screws. Note there are some Torx type head screws in here too. You don't want to remove those. Those are holding the electronics module together. The 2 bottom screws are fairly easy to take out. You can get your hands on them to pull them out. They're pretty long. The 2 top ones, the 2 that are up by the LCD display, are a little bit harder to get to. So what I would suggest is just back them all the way out until you can't back them out any further. And then pick the module up to get the screws out. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so I got those all loosened up. And now we're going to pull. Oh, we want to push back this little stopper, this little black stopper that's on here. This is just a little seal for where the antenna goes in. So I'm going to pull that back just a touch. And now we should be able to lift this electronics module out of here very, very carefully. And again, now we can get those screws out so we don't lose them. Grab that one. Okay. So now we can see what's underneath here. Here's our battery. Here's our battery terminals. Notice the battery wire runs underneath this bar and down to the bottom of the logger housing. So you want to make sure to rerun that cable in the same orientation. And again, you can't really lift this out too far because of the little ribbon cable that goes to the O-bus connectors. And also, this is the antenna lead for the 3G antenna. So there's not a whole lot of room there, so you have to be very, very careful. So we want to take this aluminum strap off of here. Just unloosen these Phillips screws. And there's a piece of foam underneath this that holds it, basically holds the battery in place so it doesn't bounce around too much. So keep in mind there'll be a little bit of spring tension, spring-like tension from that foam. There we go. It's the first screw. And let's unscrew that one. There we go. Take that other screw out. Put these over here. And now we can take out this retaining bar. Just tip that up to get it out. There we go. There's our old battery. Set this aside for a moment. There's our new battery. Notice the way the terminals are on. There's little plastic terminals already on here for shipping, so we want to pull those off. So pull this off of here. There we go. Red to red. And black to black. There we go. Here's our old battery. Get ready to recycle that. Again, it's a lead acid battery, kind of like you have in your automobile. So now we want to carefully place this new battery in the bottom of the logger. Notice how that goes between the battery and the post. So that looks pretty good. And now we just need to put our bar back in. I'm just going to swing this around so I can see it a little better. Okay, get that started. I always like to get the screws started before I tighten them down. If you tighten one down too soon, you won't be able to get the other one in there. Again, I'm very careful supporting this electronics module so that we don't put undue strain on those cables. We should be able to tighten this down. There we go. You don't have to go too crazy on tightening these down. Just snug is good. Tight is tight, as they say. And now we can put our electronics module back on. I'm going to put these screws in place ahead of time. And just kind of set this down in there. Put our other two screws in. Swing this around so I can see it a little better here. And we'll just do a little wiggle wiggle. There we go. Again, we don't want to tighten them down all the way until we get all four of them caught. There we go. And now we can just snug them up. They don't have to be super tight. Just tight is tight, as they say. We don't want to crush the board. And there, we have our battery replaced. Put our little stopper back in place. And now we can put our modules back in. If we have more than one, This one just has the single one in here. And put that in there. Like that. And then we'll take it out in the field, remount it, and then hook up our battery terminals and our charging device. And again, once we hook up the battery, you'll see it, it'll power up, and all the LCD segments will light up, and then it will go through its initialization process.